welcome to today's webinar. On our screen, you can see Amy and Oscar. Just a quick reminder that if you do register for the TWI and Kata Summit before October 31st, you do receive a $400 savings. You can find that summit online at leanfrontiers.com. Oscar, I believe we are right on target. So if you are ready, go right ahead.
Perfect. And as I always say at the start of these, Skylar in particular, but Lean Frontiers in general, thank you very much for all the work that goes on behind the scenes to bring these together and things like the summit and Carticon that are coming up. Much appreciated. So we're joined today by Amy Williams. Amy is a director across many areas of the business that within she works, Reliable Sprinkler. She's got 34 years experience and in capital installs, CI and Lean, and has a passion for all things encompassing. Now, with regard to the topic for today, which was systemization of learning, snatching a TWI victory from the jaws of cultural defeat, Amy, can you just describe where you're at now? And then we'll get into the how you've got there. But if you can give us an overview of where you're at now, please.
Right. So we have a very matured program at this point. We've got 95% of the plant covered with what you call JIBs. I call them JBSs, the job scripts in JI. We have taught 22 different courses to 22 different classes. Those classes have anywhere from 5 to 15 people in them. And we've retained about 114 different trainers. Our training presence crosses over all shifts, first, second, third, and into weekend shift. And yeah, we've just got a really matured program with TWI supporting all the different tasks and jobs that need to be learned here at Reliable Automatic Sprinkler Company.
Thank you. So when you say courses, you've done, do you mean courses, internal courses that you pull in the JI skills, or do you mean the 10-hour program when you say course?
Right. So we teach 10 hours of JI and 10 hours of JR in a single week. Sometimes we'll
Okay.
crush it into a single weekend if it's the weekend shift. We just did that a couple of weeks ago.
So hang on. 10 hours on a Saturday, 10 hours on a Sunday, all in the one day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How,
Because
how
those
did,
folks oftentimes have jobs Monday through Friday. And so they're unable to attend during one of our week-long classes. Yeah.
wow, that's an amazing effort in itself.
It also goes a little bit faster when you only have a fewer number of students because you don't have as many
Okay.
demos. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. So that's an interesting point. How many would you have in one of those compressed courses, if you like? How
I
many
think this,
participants?
yeah, I think this past weekend we did 7 students.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
All right, very good. Thank you. So that's first step is paint the picture of where you're at now. So in 2017, I'll just read what the blurb says, and then if you can expand on it. So it said in 2017, the usual initial small group at Reliable Sprinkler took their first class in job instruction. The outcome was, as it nearly always is, enthusiasm. The silver bullet had been discovered. Let's go. What was not foreseen was the marathon ahead. So can you tell us a little bit as to what things looked like in 2017, just before that first class?
Well, I had gone over, SCMEP was instrumental in this. We went over and Susan Whitehead gave a seminar
Oh,
over at SCMEP, and she was wonderful. And I said, gosh, this is it. This is what we need. We had been doing just a loose OJT and needed to standardize because we were having differences across shifts. Different employees were performing tasks differently, and clearly we needed standardization. So we hired a couple of consultants, and they came in and they taught the initial couple of courses in 2017. And we were super stoked. We were excited.
JI
Um,
courses, the JI 10 hour,
and the
the JR.
JR.
Oh, yeah,
We did
both.
JR as well. Right.
Okay, right from the start, you did JI and JR.
Yep. And when I remember when I graduate, we did some leadership first. We did some coaching with leadership. Everybody else got excited. We did some, I cast some vision and got leadership excited about it. And then we graduated that very first class. And it was so well received. We did a graduation at the end, gave them certificates. And I thought, this is fabulous. They can just go out and train on Monday. And we just look back and chuckle now because we were pretty naive.
Okay. If you don't mind, can you just go back? Because one of the questions we often get asked at the Institute is, and I think you're going to you've already touched on it, is how do you get leadership buy-in to enough momentum to get started with this stuff? So you said you did some coaching with leadership before that first session in first JIJR session in 2017. Do you recall how you went about that and what that covered?
So we did every member of leadership, every supervisor, every manager, every director. We went ahead and did a compressed course Monday through Thursday, and we ran 4 courses a day so that the floor could still be covered. So it was
Okay.
a marathon from like 6 in the morning till 10 at night. And we ran that across the week. And it was just, I think we had an excellent consultant for one thing. He was very dynamic, that really believed in the program, got everybody enthused and jazzed up about it. It was just a 2 hour hit per participant per day. And so they got 2, 4, 6, like 8 total hours, I believe. Maybe it was 10. I can't remember. Maybe we did it on Friday too. I can't recall.
Right.
But they just got a good injection of TWI positivity. And, it's the same approach as doing a Kaizen event where you really just get good buy-in from everybody because it's a positive environment when you do Kaizen and collaborate.
Sure. So there was, at the end of that, there was sufficient buy-in from leadership, is what I understand you to be saying, to be able to move forward ahead to that first class, if you like.
That's right. And we had a consultant do this one as well. His name was Paul Johnson. He came from Johnson Consulting, I guess, and he had done 10,000 courses. I remember that number. It was 6,000 lean events and 4,000 TWI,
Wow.
or the reverse. But he was just so practiced
Yes,
and just an
that's an
excellent
achievement.
TWI practitioner. And he really had drunk the Kool-Aid, so to speak, and we all drank it too. So, and like I said, this was the first course of true participants, trainers who were going to go out onto the floor and they were going to train themselves.
Yeah, so in the screen behind you, that's the 2018 Consultant Teaches Two Courses and Conducts Leadership Training.
That's right. Hmm.
Okay, so there's an additional, as well as the two JIJR courses, there was some leadership training there. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that's that might be an important factor in all this is, it's not just about JIJR. There needs to be other stuff that's happening in parallel to support these things, to
I'm
support
not
these
sure.
initiatives.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm following your question. After we did all the leadership training, then we actually conducted, we kind of flowed that leadership training. Anyone who didn't get caught up in the first go
Oh,
round,
okay, sorry.
yeah, participated. It was a requirement. And so that was top down leadership saying that you will take this course.
Sure.
And then
Okay.
we had the 2 regular classes that, were participants who became our very first certified trainers.
Okay, very good. Now, I should have said at the start to all participants that are attending live, if you have a question that you would like to ask Amy, please submit it via the chat, and either Skylar will prompt me that it's there, or I'll see that it's there and I'll ask Amy. So if we can make this session, as well as the discussion, a pool session, what would you like to know from Amy on what she's talking about? Please just put a question in the chat, and we'll help trigger interaction on the participants' part. So in the notes, Amy, we said you would elaborate on some of the victories and failures and how you adjusted accordingly. So what was one of the early victories, would you say?
So we kind of call them inflection points, a significant moment where change occurs. And if we hadn't made that change, the program began to flounder. And so we had to make those changes, those inflection points. So, one of the things we get jazzed about is making sure that we can tell other people about our aha moments so that you don't have to kind of relive it. Um, so one of the first inflection points was right there under 2019. We had in-house instructors certified. It became very prohibitively expensive to bring in a consultant. They were charging $30,000 a week to do the JI and JR, and then we got 50% discount through the state, but it was still $15,000 a pop. And by going to the Institute and obtaining our own certifications, we were able to um, do that ourselves. And by doing so, we could have smaller class sizes. And in the smaller class sizes, we could spend more time actually getting the subject matter experts to write our job scripts. So we were
I
we were scaling and leveraging and writing job scripts to the tune of several hundred every week that we held a class.
When you say job scripts, that's your words for the JIB, is it?
The jib. You call it a
The J-
jib, I call it a GBS, but yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah, no, that's good. That's fine.
how we
You're
diverted there, but yeah.
more than welcome to call them what you see fit, but just wanted to clarify it from other participants' point of view. It wasn't a third thing, it's your equivalent of the jibs.
Yeah,
Okay,
and the
so
other
what?
big secret
Go
to
on.
success here was the curriculum. So we took every single skill in the plant, we broke it down in almost like chapters of a book, and we wrote that curriculum so that in every major area, we had a curriculum that said if you want to learn this machine or this area, here are all the different fundamental skills. And then we just set about systematically and methodically creating jibs for all of those. Um, yeah.
Can you give us an example? Is there, if you got one that you can give us an example of that breakdown? Do you recall, or is there something you
To
can?
create the curriculum, I mean, I can
Yeah,
show it
yeah,
on
yeah.
screen if it'll take me just a minute to pull it up if that's what you'd like to do.
It might be helpful to see because I think one of the things that people struggle with a little bit is breaking down the jobs into consumable chunks, which
Okay,
is what.
yeah, perfect. So this is our our LMS, our learning management system. And that's one of our other inflection points that I was going to hit on later. But we've got all this up on SharePoint. I'm clicking on the curriculum section and let's see, we'll just pull up one of them. This is one of our bread and butter areas. And I created this form sitting at my kitchen counter because I happened to be at home with a parent who had two knee surgeries, and I worked 10 hours a day from collaborating with different supervisors and with different subject matter experts, and we created this curriculum. So we found certain skills, we call them universal skills, that may
Okay.
be a bit crossover from area to area, and we broke those out separately.
So did
And
you
then
start to train them first, then those universal skills that can cross over from area to area? Was that one of your points of early
so,
focus?
sometimes, I think the original version of this probably did not have these universal skills. It was a later add because we saw the need for it. What I did was get with the supervisor who's been in that area. We have one supervisor who's managed the same area for 50 years, if you can believe that.
Really?
Yeah, he's
That's a
80
feat.
and he's
Congratulations.
still
Is he
coming
still
to
there?
work every day. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Congratulations to that
So we
person.
just collaborated with those very knowledgeable supervisors, and I said, when you bring someone new into your department, how do you want to teach them?
Brilliant
Um,
question.
right? And they said, I want them to start with gauging. I want them to learn everything about that frame and then move on from there. And so, we would just uh, follow suit with whatever they recommended. So what you're seeing
Brilliant.
here that I'm highlighting is one fundamental machine, and you can see uh, the various skill sets within that area. And we've identified a practice time as well
Okay.
as a direct set. We call it 7X. That's the job script where you go through it 7 times. And the
Sure.
standard target time would require to teach that. The
Brilliant.
practice time is something we added later. Originally, we didn't have that, but we said, okay, just because you learned the 7X, that doesn't mean your trainer should depart from you. We
So
allow
just to
them to.
hold there a minute, just to clarify, that gap there, if you like, is something between step three and step four, what you're saying, and JI, you're saying there's time. Is that what you're more or less saying?
Step 3 and step 4, you lost me.
Of the JI, of the delivery of the JI routine, step one, prepare the
Oh,
worker, step two. So between three and four, where you basically in four you hand off, you're saying there's some time there for the person to practice before they're evaluated for a better word. Is that right?
but technically it's after 4, right? They're going to deliver their
Okay.
7X. They're going to put them on their own, put them with
Okay.
someone that they can ask for help. But that trainer
Yeah,
doesn't
good
really
point.
depart. We have what we call coaching and mentoring time. We actually created an equations, and the equation is based off of how many minutes it takes or hours it takes to finish direct 7X. And then we extrapolate
Wow.
that into a coaching time. And this way, the supervisor can know and understand how long they can anticipate if I assign these number of 7Xs, how much total time is going to be invested. So you can see here, it's
Yeah,
just three and
right.
a half days to learn this set of skills,
In that
inclusive of the
order.
coaching time. Right. In that
In
order.
in
Yeah,
that order, going top down. So it's
that's right.
almost, I mean, it's in somewhat a training timetable on steroids.
It is, and then we also do a training timetable that's really on steroids. And I can show you that in a moment. But then we
Okay.
have beginner, average, and advanced times that we try to put some targets in there. And then we have a cumulative program for this F1 automation area. You see, I'm summating all of the different machines and all of the different skills, and we come down to a cumulative time at the bottom of the page.
Wow. And this is for F1 automation, whatever that may be, but that's
Right,
fine.
that's just
That's
one area.
wow. Wow. Now we'll just digress a little bit. Keith Gilmore has asked, question, what problem or metric initiated this work right at the start at Reliable? Was something going wrong? And what does that measure look like now?
So great question. We were having challenges with turnover and inconsistent processes that led to defects. I can't say that we have a good baseline where I can say we've had, I'd love to be able to say we've had 25% reduction in training time and we've had 30% reduction in defects. We have been juggling so many issues through COVID, whether we had to source all kinds of different components, and that muddles the defects picture
Yeah,
for
yeah.
us. Um, we had to source, a variety of different products that maybe uh, just different suppliers and working through supplier issues and the normal things that happen in businesses. But the turnover has been aggravated by the dynamic market here in our locale, where if somebody offers 50 cents an hour more, people will abandon the job to go elsewhere. And that
Yeah.
we've been growing by leaps and bounds in this locale, and so we still have significant turnover. Although one of the metrics that I really stand on is when our executive VP sits down for roundtable meetings, and he says, "Did you get a TWI trainer? Tell me about your training experience." Those people give rave reviews of what the program is doing for them and how they felt about it, and it's in stark contrast to anyone who was trained prior to having a TWI experience.
Yeah, good. I like what you've added there. So what I understand you to be saying is that there's some, well, I guess they are measurable, but there's some immeasurable people stuff that's very evident behind that's showing the success of what you've done. Would that be a fair way of
That's
looking
right.
at it?
And there was a time in our history, I'll just be totally vulnerable and transparent and say we called it tears within industry because there were so many growing pains that we had people falling out with the stress and crying in the office, and or trainees leaving for the car, sometimes in tears. And I would say, if you feel so overwhelmed that you're feeling this way, please call me. And I would give them my personal cell phone number and say, don't leave.
Brilliant.
Come in and talk to me about what's going right and what's going wrong and what we can do to make it better. So
So,
go ahead.
so this was post 2017,
This
between
is
then and
this
now.
is yeah, like 17 to 19. We don't have that happen very much anymore. We would have people that would just
Wow.
disappear. They would come in first day on the job, first break, lunchtime, poof, they're gone. We didn't know where they went. They
Yeah.
didn't tell anyone. They just disappeared.
Yeah, right. So Keith says, thank you for the answer, by the way. Given what you just said then, the last minute or so, I guess that's where job relations came to the absolute fore. Would that be a fair comment? In that tears for industry, or whatever
Well,
you call it. I
someone
love
would,
it.
especially when trainers would come in tears, I'd say, okay, let's dry our eyes. Let's have a glass of cold water. And then I'd flip that 11 and a half by 17 sheet of paper over and say, let's do a JR exercise. Let's get the facts. Let's weigh and decide. And they would say, oh, I know I should have done that before I jumped up and hurled an insult at Ms. So-and-so, um, but it was a whole new trying to turn the culture
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
is a challenge. And I would get total conversion of everyone in the class. And I
yeah,
trained all the supervisors, but if Mr. Supervisor is feeling the heat out on the floor and he hasn't been to class for 3 years, that's where I find the challenges. That's where they want to cut the corners. That's where they want to,
yeah,
um, well, you don't really need to do one-on-one training. Can't you train these three people at the same time? You don't really need to
yeah,
go in the
right.
office and practice your jibs. Can't you just wing it because I really need this done? And that's where the
Yeah.
tiers would come into place. So another inflection point was creating the policy. And I'd be glad to show you that as well.
That'd be good because Sandra Broman has just, and I think you're answering it, but just to be sure, Sandra has questioned, when did you introduce JR and did it help curve that tiers within industry, which I love that statement, period of time? And I think you've answered yes. And the introduction of JR was right from day one. Have I got that right?
It was right from day one. It was.
Yes.
And
That
interestingly,
helps
when
me.
I went to the New York Institute to take JR, there was a very learned person there from Poland. I enjoyed meeting her so much, and she was teaching in
Agatha? No, no.
Germany. I'm
What
sorry.
was her name? Was she an institute person?
No, she was a student with me, but she was teaching in Poland, in Finland, and in Russia,
I
and
think I
she
know
was
who you mean. I've met
multilingual.
her.
Yeah, she was really fantastic, but
Yeah.
she was going back for JR because they did JM and JI and forgot about the JR. And she said that it was just so essential.
Yeah,
And we've
wow.
had some really great testimonies from students in class that tried to like rise up through the organization. Maybe they were becoming a cell leader or a PA or a section leader, which would be under a supervisor here. And it was their first foyer into leadership. And many, more than one, maybe less than a dozen, but they've literally said, I so wish I'd had this opportunity to take this class before I took on my first leadership role. I wouldn't have made so many mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
So,
And sorry,
but
you were
anyway, this
about to, if you
go
keep
ahead.
talking about what you to show us, I'll remember that lady's name, I reckon.
Okay, good. So this is our policy, and this is what ultimately I had to do because I would have curmudgeon conversion, which is my term for, converting someone to getting them excited about TWI. Then they'd go out into the heat of battle, so to speak, and they'd sort of forget their principles and how enthused they were in favor of cutting corners to get the job done. And so ultimately, we got tired of fighting that battle. It was like Groundhog Day, the same conversations over and over again. And so we created this policy, and it just is the do's and don'ts of our program, what we do and what we don't do.
The do's and
Super
don'ts of the program overall.
Right. Supervisors will not assign employees to do any job without ensuring that the employee has been trained according to the training curriculum and the 7X job breakdown script by a
Wow.
certified trainer, and
And
so on and so forth.
when did this come to life? What in that time scale of 2017 to 25, where we're at now, about when did
Um,
this come up?
I would say that was, I don't think I have it here as a point, but it was pretty recent, like 2023. It was
Yeah, right.
evolving and 2024 fully enforced. We should have done it earlier.
Yeah, it may not have had. Yeah, people often say that, but I think the time, yeah, perhaps it's easier to say that, but the
You had to have a
time,
fully matured curriculum. You had to have enough trainers that you could say thou
yeah,
shalt, right?
yes,
Because
exactly.
if thou shalt is only when you have all the stuff prepared and the stuff is evolving and growing, all the tools are evolving and growing, then you can't really say thou shalt, right? Because
Yeah,
it's thou
exactly.
shalt 50% of the time.
Good. And Keith says that policy work is fantastic. Congratulations. So, how did you go about getting buy-in to that? And who was involved in the development of it? I guess that might be part of the answer to my question.
So I wrote it from I mean from start to finished. Where did it go? From start to finish, I think I was able to finish it maybe in a couple hours because it flowed right off the tongue because these were the problems that I was facing.
Yeah, these were the things you were running into.
Yeah, exactly. It was super easy. And I allowed our executive VP to read it and he was 100% on board. He had no qualms with any of the documents. And from a documentation standpoint, he's very much in support of having procedures, numbered visual aids, numbered documents. And so this was right up his alley.
Perfect. And then how did you go about selling it to the troops, so to speak?
Um, Selling it to the troops. We reviewed it in person. We had meetings around the clock, coming in on third shift, second shift, and allowed questions. We brought in not just the supervisors, but also those that, um, for instance, our section leaders and PAs may assign jobs,
Yeah,
right?
well,
And so if they're assigning Ms. X to come out and do a particular job, They have to know, oh, whoops, I need to go look at the training matrix to see if she's been approved for that job. And if she's not, I need to reach out to a training specialist so they can create a training plan so that they can be properly trained. And that's not the way they were accustomed to working. They wanted to just grab Miss X and say, here's how you do it. You got it. Okay. And, you know, leave them to it. So
And
um,
I mean, one
those
of the
round
things
the
I
clock
love,
meetings were vital.
yeah, good. And one of the things, there's several things I love about this, but again, it pulls in one of the job relations foundations, which is let each person know how they're doing. And the subheading of that is figure out what's expected of the person. And it strikes me that that's exactly what you were doing there. And you went through the change part of the foundation, which was tell people why and help them accept the change. So to me, you've pulled in the foundations. That policy is a really good example of working through JR in a positive way rather than handling a problem, so to speak. And
Yes,
hand on
proactively.
heart, because we're running low on time, hand on heart, what would you say and the level of, and I hate this word, the level of compliance is now with that policy?
So great question. Several conversations I've had this week. There's an Aesop's fable, which I don't know. Apparently, I'm the only one whose parents read them Aesop's fables when I was a
No, I
child.
always
But
read Aesop's
okay,
fables.
the king's new clothes, right? And the king is standing there buck naked, and everyone is too afraid to tell him that he's naked, and so they say, "What a beautiful suit of clothes you have on," right?
Yes.
I'm not into that. I'm not a king's new clothes, the king's new suit kind of person. So I've had to be very honest, especially as we've grown to 114 trainers. We are concerned that not everybody is delivering it with the same fidelity, delivering that 7X.
No.
Now, my training specialist,
People are
which I
people. They won't be. That's a fact. People are people.
right. And so what we're looking at doing is having a preponderance of really talented training specialists who can deliver the 7X on first shift. And you're required to do 2 days of orientation, Monday and Tuesday at our company. And so it funnels in perfectly to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You get your initial curriculum of 7X from an expert deliverer of these scripts. And then you go to your own shift. When you do go to
Ah,
your own shift, you'll have a coach or mentor that's one of the 114, the certified trainer. They've been to JI, they've been to JR, but you have heard the purest version of the 7Xs to be delivered in your own area
yeah, good. Really good. So that's something you're working through right now.
right now. This is the latest inflection point. Yeah.
Very good. Now, another question Keith has asked. Thanks, Keith, for all these questions. It helps make it more lively, which is appreciated. So, how did you work through funding the additional resources as you've grown, trainers, etc.?
So I convinced them to hire first my first two training specialists, and they choked on the dollars per hour, which we giggle at now. But
So you've
they
got a
were
return on the investment, is what
they
you're
were
saying.
full time, right? And then I talked them into a third. And how did I rationalize that? We are showing the number of trainees that we have, and we're showing this extremely professional training plan, which I can show you if we're not out of time. Every person gets a tailored, individualized plan, and it's scoped out from the first morning that they start, every hour of the day. So every script is right there with a live link on an iPad, so you can touch that link and open up the tool. There's no guesswork for the trainer. Everything is pre-scripted. And that work was so valuable. That rationalized my three training specialists. And then we really needed some help on the off shifts because we were getting terrible compliance on second and third. So I now have a training specialist slot, half time on second and half time on third. And hopefully, I'm looking very soon to ratchet from like a staff of five, four if you count the part time work, to maybe a staff of 8 to 10.
Wow.
And that's the plan that I'm pushing forward right now.
Wow, that's incredible. And as I said, no doubt management are asking you to validate the return on investment, and there's not too much trouble, not too hard to do that by the sound of it.
So it's tough to do it with a raw ROI
Yes.
in dollars, but all we have to do is start copying the right people on the professional training plans and the standard leader work, and the volume of the number of trainees and the problems that they're having, the problems we're resolving, is very evident.
Okay.
And then we're doing other things like, hey, would you like a technician training program. Kayla, who's on the line with us, is going to school for engineering technology. She would like to help craft a production tech and or maintenance tech, ME tech type TWI program for techs.
Okay.
We're also doing
Wow.
English to Spanish translations
Yeah,
with
right.
multilingual folks checking our work. So there's just almost no end to the different things that we call that project work. So in addition to the brass tacks, the tactical execution of what the training specialists need to do, they're also taking on these extra projects.
Good. Amy, we are at the bottom of the hour, and I really, really appreciate the time that you've given us here. It was a great discussion, and we could go on for hours, I know, but we're not going to do that. We're going to pull up now. So Sandra and Keith have asked a number of questions. Sandra and Keith, if you contact Lean Frontiers, I'm sure they'll give you Amy's email address. Amy, you won't mind, I don't think.
No, that'd be fine.
And please follow up directly, because Sandra does have a question that she's posted, but best she asks you directly, because I don't want to go over time. So again, Amy, really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much for this discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, thank
And
you.
thanks,
Thank
Lean
you for the
Frontiers.
opportunity.